course, as soon as I pass the gas station, the gas light comes on. Well, I guess we can just get gas here. All right, well, I guess we're just gonna go inside now. Let's see what number 3. Hey there. Can I get 5 on 3, please? Appreciate it. Super. Woo. That was fast. Let's see how far that gets me. 2 gallons, 2 whole gallons. Or not even 2 whole gallons. But it never would have taken 10, so oh well. Alright, crisis averted. Probably could have made that. Yeah, I definitely could have made that. Now I gotta wait. Sup. Oh God. The heck are they doing? Never have I ever wanted to pass more cars at once. I might get an opportunity eventually. The spacing between these cars are just perfect enough for me not to be able to do that though, unless I want to die. Speaking of dying, since I'm just riding here, I figure I'll tell you guys the first time that I ever rode a motorcycle, ever. I don't think I've ever told you guys that story. The guy that taught me, I would say that he was my best friend. We were attached at the hip most of the time. We did everything together. You know, we hung out, played video games, ate, everything. I mean, you know, we were best friends. I probably haven't spoken to that guy in probably 4 years now, or close to it. You know what? You know what? It probably is close to 4, maybe even 5 years now. My concept of time is kind of wonky because everything happens so fast. I mean, 5 years seems like a long time, but it's really not. So, for story's sake, let's just call this guy Will. So, me and Will were best friends, and his older brother, me and him became pretty good friends too. I mean, we were probably just as good of friends. His older brother was way more into video games and stuff, and more of a technology type of person, kind of like I am. I really enjoy technology and things, and so, you know, Will was over at the house, you know, hanging out with me, and we were just watching movies and stuff like, you know, guys do. You know, we were both really into cars. I mean, we worked on cars all the time. He had his Eclipse. He had a Mitsubishi Eclipse, like a 1996 or 95 model, something like that. Maybe even a 98. I can't remember. He had a couple of them. Now that I think of it, he had a few of them. And so, and I had my 02 RSX-Type S back in those days. If you go back in my videos, you may even get to see a glimpse of it. It's a silver one. And so Will was over at the house, and you know, someone called him, and he said, you know, he said something along the lines of, yeah, tomorrow morning, yeah, around 9 o'clock, yeah, okay, sounds good, all right, bye. And I was like, you know, who the hell was that? And he said, oh, it was my brother, and we'll just call his older brother Steve. We'll just call him Steve. Sorry, I'm saying a lot. I'm trying to get my thoughts together. I'm also listening to music. It probably would help me if I just didn't. But Metallica's playing. How can I say no? So Steve called the Will, and he basically said, oh, our friend Mark wants to, he's going to come over and we're going to show him how to ride a motorcycle tomorrow. And I was like, what's he going to ride? He goes, he's going to ride my old R6. Keep in mind, Will already has been riding for a long time, and so has his older brother Steve. And so they had another friend who I'm calling Mark, and they said, oh, we're going to teach Mark how to ride a motorcycle tomorrow. We're going to teach him on my old R6. And I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. What's the occasion? And he said, well, Mark's going to be buying the R6, and he's going to, you know, join our little, you know, group, because they, you know, they rode together with another group and everything. And I was like, oh, can I come? And he goes, yeah, I don't see why not, but we don't have another bike, or I don't have another bike. And I was like, oh, well, you think you could just teach me after you teach Mark? And he goes, well, it usually is an all-day affair whenever we show someone how to ride a bike. And I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe another time then. He goes, but Steve has a spare bike. It's got some issues, but it does run. And I was like, oh, okay. So I called Steve and I was like, hey, Steve, I heard you guys were going to show Mark how to ride a bike tomorrow. Would it be cool if I borrowed your bike, your other bike, and learned with him? And he was like, yeah, sure, I don't care. Only issue is that it doesn't have a battery. And I was like, oh, okay. And then Will goes, we can just clutch start it. That's how we've been doing it. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And so we all got together. We went to bed late that night, you know, and we all woke up about 8 o'clock the next morning, and we went over to their house because he spent the night at my house. Will had like a 2000 and something Ninja 600, and Mark was on the R6 that he was buying. Steve was on his Suzuki Boulevard, can't remember the year. And I was on a 85, 86, 87, something around there, Honda Shadow 750. And that thing was amazing. I loved that bike. It was so baller. Had a huge windshield on it. I mean, to most people, it's probably like the ugliest bike on planet Earth. But to me, it was super cool. I loved it. I thought it was so cool. So the first bike that me, Snowdrift, ever rode was a cruiser. I learned how to ride on a cruiser, believe it or not. I was actually, I got put through, I was baptized by the way of fire as far as learning how to ride a bike, because Will and Steve both got behind the bike and they were like, okay, put it in second gear, something like that, and we're gonna push you down the hill, and whenever you get going, you know, decently quick, pop the clutch to start it. And I was like, okay. They shoved me down this hill. I pop started. It starts on the second pop because I had to do it a couple times, but I just kept rolling down the hill. Finally got it going, and then I just took off. They kind of gave me the basics standing there. They're like, okay, you know, this is the horn, this is the lights, this is all this stuff. The only thing you need to worry about is not crashing. And I was like, okay. They strapped a helmet on my head, and I was just wearing jeans and a t-shirt, you know, squidding it up. And actually I may have been wearing like a hoodie or something because it was cold when I learned. I learned like it was like probably February. It would have been like January or February of 2014 is when I learned how to ride. I was 19 years old. And so they pushed me down the hill. I got it to start and I just took off. And as soon, it was really nice of Will because it was as soon as they pushed me, he ran and jumped on his bike and took off after me to kind of coach me through the first few steps. And so I just took off, and you know, I had the RSX at the time, so I knew what shifting was. I just had to learn how to shift with my foot instead of with my hand. So all the controls are basically backwards as far as everything is concerned. Everything on the throttle side of the bike is brake. So you got your front brake up here, which is that lever, and then you got your, you know, your rear brake down by your foot. Okay, simple. Everything on the clutch side of the bike, which, you know, or the kickstand side of the bike, is shifting. So this is your clutch, and you got your clutch pedal, or not your clutch pedal, you got your clutch lever, and then you got your gear shifter down by your left foot. Simple. And so I basically just stayed in second gear for a long time. I didn't go fast at all. And it wasn't until later that day I found out that going slow is a lot harder than going fast on a bike. So I finally shifted up into third gear, and I was going up a hill at the time, and it kind of bogged on me a little bit, but I kept it alive. And I downshifted a couple times, or well, I upshifted and downshifted several times just to get a feel for it. And then, you know, I didn't have a license or anything, and we were on, I mean, it was a back road, it was a country back road and everything, but it technically was a public road. And so I was a little nervous. That was really the only thing that made me super nervous. But how else was I supposed to learn? I mean, like, you have to learn somehow. And like, I think that's just kind of a lenient law. You know, you're not supposed to ride a bike or drive a car without a license or anything. But how in the world do you expect somebody that's never been on a motorcycle before in their life to go and just take the rider's test and everything, and the written test or whatever at the DMV, and then just be good at riding. I mean, it's hardly possible, I think, if you've never been on two wheels before, and you just don't know what to do. And so, I mean, I was a little afraid of getting pulled over, but at the same time, I knew this road like the back of my hand, and there wasn't usually a whole lot of cops out there ever, so I wasn't too worried about it. It was literally an all-day thing. I mean, he didn't lie. So we rode around all over the back roads of my hometown. You know, I never actually went into the town where there was like traffic lights and traffic and all that stuff. But I rode some of the, best back roads that, my hometown in Tennessee has to offer. Which, by the way, we're in Tennessee right now. So, we're going over the Elk River right here. So, my old stomping grounds. I've kayaked a lot in that river. Whole lot. So, anywho. So I almost died. I've taught a lot of people how to ride a motorcycle, and I've never actually taught anyone about this aspect of it, because I feel like it's no need to teach someone, because your body naturally becomes accustomed to this aspect of riding even without you having any knowledge about it. Because I've actually asked people if they realize that this is what you have to do, and a lot of them don't even realize it. So this part nearly killed me because I was thinking about it the whole time. So Will told me about counter steering, and everyone that's watching this video that's never ridden a bike before, just don't even pay attention to this next few words I'm about to say. So counter steering is, okay, when you're driving a car, you turn the wheel to the left, you go and you hit the gas, you go left. Turn the wheel to the right, the wheels turn right, you hit the gas, you turn right. Okay? Motorcycle, if you're going any speed above not moving, basically, like, I mean, if you're moving it with your feet, I mean, it's a different story, but if you're going any type of speed, I'm talking like 5 miles an hour over that, you have to counter steer. So counter steering, we're about to take a left-hand turn, okay, or left-hand corner. Counter steering is exactly what it sounds like. In order for me to turn the bike to go left, I've actually got to turn the handlebars to the right, which it's really hard to tell when you're going any type of speed, but I'm actually pushing the handlebars to the right. So I'm going to make this a little dramatic. I'm going to get over here to this side of the road, and I'm going to push the handlebars right pretty hard, pretty fast. So watch. You guys see that? Watch. You push right, or you turn the handlebars right, you go left. What happened, and vice versa. If I were to come over here and I need to go right, you push the handlebars, you turn like as if you were going to turn left. So what happens is that since you're only on two wheels, your back wheel does all the pushing, your front wheel does all the steering. And so because the front wheel is the only wheel you have to turn with, and it's rounded, whenever you turn left, the wheel does turn left, but it exposes more of the right side of the sidewall, and it's more or less you're throwing the bike over. And so when the wheel goes this way, more of the lean angle of the right side is exposed, turning you right. It's crazy, but that's how it works. I mean, actually, it's not crazy. It's a scientific fact. The same thing kind of happens with a boat rudder, as far as I'm pretty sure, because when the rudder, the rudder creates drag, and it pushes the opposite direction of which way the boat will be turning, because it's dragging on the more water coming from that direction, and so the boat goes the opposite way. I'm pretty sure, I think. And so it's pretty much the opposite of a boat, because you steer a boat from the rear, you steer a bike from the front, but it's the same basic concept. Yeah, it sounds really confusing. And so that was explained to me, and that was all I thought about all day long to make sure I didn't kill myself. And so now it's second nature. I don't have to think about it, but at the time, it's all I thought about. So I was coming around a corner, The corner went from being a sweeping right-hand turn into being straight and then a left-hand turn pretty quickly. And so literally I came through the right-hand corner pretty solid, but I ended up way over here on the right side of the road, and the bike just kind of kept wanting to go that way, and it was just from my inexperience. And so and it was just a sheer drop off. I mean, it wasn't like a ditch right here, which I wouldn't want to go off there anyway. I was trying to make the bike go straight, but then I started thinking about the counter steer thing, and so I literally thought that I was going to go off the edge, and I'm not making this up. I really did. And so I closed my eyes to prepare myself, because I was like, well, this is going to hurt. And so I closed my eyes, and my body reacted the exact way it should have. And I ended up leaning my body to the left, and by doing so, the bike ended up going left. And I opened my eyes again, and I was going straight, and then I twisted the handlebars the correct way, and I, was able to continue through the curve, and I survived. It scared the living daylights out of me. I went off the road just a hair, but it wasn't super bad. But it still scared me to death. But I made it through, and nothing happened. We made a couple stops. I had to jump the bike off the same way with the clutch, but after it warms up, it's much easier to clutch pop it like that. So with that being said, I was able to finish the ride. I went around a couple of curves a little bit too fast for a cruiser, scraping peg on my first day riding. Didn't know what that meant at the time, but thinking back on it, I'm pretty proud of myself. And also thinking back on it, that was probably the sketchiest time of my life, honestly. That time in my life at that age, that was pretty sketchy. But thinking back on it now, I personally would never teach someone how to ride like that. And I've never taught someone how to ride like that. Not trying to toot my own horn or anything, but I do have a pretty large capacity for the way mechanical things work. And so I already knew how to drive a stick shift car really well. I was really proficient at it, and that helped me with my knowledge transferring to how to drive a motorcycle correctly. And so that really did help. And so, and I've been riding bicycles my whole life. Growing up, that's all we had was bicycles and television. No one had cell phones at that time, growing up and everything. I mean, if someone did have a cell phone, they had to carry it in a bag with them, and all that good stuff, which I never even saw one of those, or if I did, I never paid any mind to it, didn't know what it was. So I knew how to ride a bicycle, but riding a bicycle, I mean, some things correlate. Some things from your memory will transfer over and all that good stuff, but I mean, it's not the same. I mean, just being able to keep your balance and everything, there is no balance to be had after you start moving. The only balance you have to have is whenever you're sitting still. And so after you learn how to take off on a motorcycle, everything else is pretty much a cakewalk. As long as you have any idea how to control something with two wheels, I mean, it's pretty simple. After that, I was able to stop and start again. I learned how to do that. And, when the sun started to go down, we headed back home. And that was when I was introduced to stopping in gravel, which I had not done yet. So I pulled the front brake just like I had been pulling it all day, and I kind of slid a little bit, but I was able to keep it up and come to a complete stop. Put the kickstand down, get off the bike unscathed. So that is the story of the first time I learned, or the first time I ever rode a motorcycle. Because before that, I had no idea. It was just bicycles and four-wheelers for me. I had a four-wheeler. That also helped a little bit, knowing how something is going to act whenever you're sitting on top of it with handlebars. That also helped in a way. I mean, it wasn't anywhere near the same, because I rode my four-wheeler up hills and through cow pastures and all that stuff. But it helped. I mean, in a way, it gave me some experience being in the saddle, so to speak, of something with a motor with handlebars. And so, yeah, I mean, I wasn't a natural by any means. I mean, I had been practicing for it my whole life, riding bicycles and riding four-wheelers and everything. It prepared me very well. I feel like that I sloped up into the curve of riding a motorcycle very gradually through my entire life. And so when I got on it, it felt really good. And, you know, I really hate the fact that you know, a lot of people die every day on motorcycles. I mean, that may not be statistically factual, but people die a lot on motorcycles, and it really sucks. I mean, and guys on sport bikes like this, you know, they act like jerks whenever they're out on the road and everything. I really hate that too. I hate that how motorcycles get a bad name because the fatality rate of whenever you wreck a motorcycle is pretty high. I mean, your odds of dying on a bike whenever you wreck are pretty high. And, you know, your odds of dying in a car accident are a lot lower, the percentage-wise. But, I mean, there's a lot more cars on the road than bikes. And so a lot of people just are not self-aware enough. You know, a lot of the times... oh, my Velcro came undone. A lot of the times, motorcycle accidents aren't even the biker's fault. It's usually that someone pulls out in front of them and stuff like that. And so, you know, people die on motorcycles, and that gives it give them a bad name. And people act like morons on them too, and that gives them a bad name. I mean, I'm sure I pass people every single day. I love anything with an engine. I really do. I don't care if it's a Mack truck or a push mower. Like, I love everything with engines because it's so cool. It's just the culmination of years and years and years, hundreds of years of manufacturing and developing and R&D and all that stuff. I mean, some smart dudes came up with this idea. Let's control an explosion and turn that into energy. I mean, my God, like, that is some of the coolest crap I've ever heard in my life, you know? I mean, that's really basic, kind of a cut and dry version of what an engine is, but it really is a controlled explosion. You're turning fire into energy, and that's how we're moving. You know, we got gas and spark plugs and all that good stuff. I mean, it's amazing. I love it. I love that kind of stuff, thinking about that kind of stuff. And so, I mean, but people look at me on this thing and they're like, oh, that guy's probably a douche. It's like, that's really unfair for someone to have that thought about me based on what I've got between my legs here. I mean, that's just, you know, if people think the same thing about Harley riders, and I've gotten to where I really enjoy just any bike as long as it isn't horrible, like that CBR I rode that one time. It's been molested way too much. Yeah, we're gonna pass on this one. I mean, I've been on bikes that are absolutely just dog shit. Like, I mean, they're just horrible bikes. But I mean, if the bike is basically stock, maybe some tasteful modifications, exhaust, block-off plates, velocity stacks, you know, a few other goodies, better grips, better seat. That's just stuff to make it more comfortable. I mean, it's not, I mean, that's just how I see it. I mean, most bikes are good bikes, you know? I mean, any bike that you can hop on and just go is a good bike, I guess. I mean, if it were to boil down to it, I would rather have any bike than no bike. You know what I mean? I'd even ride a Katana. So, anyway, I mean, that's my 2 cents, and that's my story. So, it looks like I'm about to get wet. I checked the radar, and it said that it wasn't supposed to be raining until later this evening up here. But if I get wet, that's just part of the journey, you know? This bike is dirty anyway. It needs a good wash. And so, anyway, that's going to be it for this video, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this motovlog. If you liked it, remember to smash that like button. If you're not subscribed already, please consider doing so. And remember to always share my videos with your friends, your family, and of course your canine friends. Always. So thank you guys so much for checking out the video. I'll catch you in the next one. And hope you all have a great night. I know the camera's not going to pick it up worth a flip, but it is so dark up there, and that's where I'm heading. So we may be getting 2 videos out of this trip. That'll be great. I might be getting wet. just so wet here in a little bit. I know Nick loves it when I say that I'm gonna be wet. Here's the corner that Nathan crashed in. This is how it's done, buddy. Just like that.